is a book talk on narrative nonfiction, and that category really includes everything from memoirs to biographies and autobiographies. So any true story where someone is telling their story or someone else has learned about the true life of someone and wants to record that would be considered narrative nonfiction. We have a large collection of narrative nonfiction in our library, everything from that 921 section in the nonfiction shelves. We've got, a ton of biographies and autobiographies if there's a person that you want to know more about. We also, on the Destiny Discover catalog, when you go to your iPad or come down to the library and use our search station, you can click on the button in the collections that says narrative nonfiction. And we have a wide variety of other books that you could look for. So in case one of the books that I shared today is not available, if you want to put something on hold, of course you can do that, but you might want to search up the whole collection to see what else we have. Before I start today, just wanted to mention we do have a spring reading challenge going on right now in case you are looking for a way to challenge yourself with what you're reading at this time. There is a spring reading bingo card that is posted on Schoology and on the library homepage. And it has lots of different ways for you to challenge yourself with reading, not just your regular books, but also where you're reading. Maybe it's reading a book outside. Maybe it is that you're reading a recipe and then making something with that recipe. Maybe you are spending time watching a lot of things on TV or movies like I am, and you want to read the captions of that show or movie. That counts. Mark that off on the bingo card. No matter what it is that you're doing on this card, once you have filled out a row, you can submit the card to me here in the library and then return it to me to be eligible for prizes. So good luck with that. Have fun. Enjoy some different ways to challenge yourself with what you're reading. Today, the first book I'm sharing is called My Name is Tani. And to learn about Tani's story, taking a look at this video is really a great way to capture the essence of this book. Tani really thought that when his family was threatened, even when his parents told them, him and his family members that they were going to be going to America, Tani thought it was the start of a great adventure rather than an escape. Let's take a look to discover a little bit more about what exactly was going on at that time in his life.
I didn't know why my father and mother were behaving so strange, or why we were suddenly leaving our home. All I knew is that we were going somewhere new, and I was excited for the great adventure to begin. Leaving everything behind, living in a different place, can be hard. Sometimes people can be mean, but most of the time people are kind. Miracles can happen. How do I know this? Because they happened to me and my family. My name is Tani, and I believe in miracles.
Tani's story outlines how when he was 8, his family ends up at this homeless shelter in New York. And after joining a chess club at his school, Tani ends up practicing the game for hours in the evenings at the shelter and begins competing in these ultra exclusive chess clubs then in New York City. And he wins again and again and again. And then less than a year after he learned to play, he won the New York State Chess Championship. This triumphant spirit that Tani has throughout the story, talking about how really it allowed him and his family to overcome so many obstacles that they were dealing with. And as he says here, in believing in miracles and believing in that the goodness of so many people, even in the face of a lot of really tough stuff, this story is an inspiration. Another book, Enchanted Air by Margarita Engel, a story of two cultures, two wings is the subtitle of this one. And this is a memoir written in a poetic style by this woman who was a girl, in the story that she's telling here about being from two different worlds. She outlines how her heart really lies in Cuba, where her mother was from. It's this country of tropical islands. It's vibrant. It really seemed almost like a fairy tale to Margarita, and she dreams of going back there as often as possible. But most of the time she lives in Los Angeles, this city that's noisy. It feels very lonely to her, and she instead just dreams about the summers when she can go back to take a plane and live back on that island in Cuba and be there the rest of the time. But a revolution breaks out in Cuba. There's a huge crisis between Cuba and the United States. And in that, Margarita's worlds are colliding. Suddenly, she's not able to travel back and forth between Cuba and the U.S., and she doesn't get to sort of experience both parts of her life. And with these two countries at war with one another and having a hard time, she doesn't even know if she's going to be able to visit Cuba any longer and have that be a part of who she is. This is her story, Enchanted Air, and getting a chance to talk about being a child of two cultures during the Cold War. Small Steps by Peg Carrot is the story about the year that Peg got polio. And I think in particular, maybe now with COVID and the idea of disease and pandemics raging, this book probably would hit readers a lot differently now than even when the book first came out. But this story of really just courage and hope, Peg is writing about the months that she spent in a hospital when she was 12. Polio being a disease that really can affect so many parts of the body, making it difficult to walk and move about, and more than even that. But this book received a number of awards and honors when it was written. This is an anniversary edition that's been updated. It's got more photos. It's got a whole new section about polio and about the disease itself. I've put on here that according to the CDC right now, the first polio vaccine was available in the United States in 1955. And thanks to that vaccine, the U.S. has been polio-free since 1979. We don't hear about people getting polio now due to the success of that vaccine. But back at the time when Peg Carrot was a young girl, this was something that was happening a fair amount. And she talks in detail about how debilitating, how really difficult that disease was, how scary it was. And it's a book that when people read this story, they can't help but really feel for her because of this true experience. Small Steps. You might know of Anne Frank. You might know about the fact that her diary is such a compelling story, and being that it is sort of the most well-known, if not one of the most well-known true stories of victims of the Holocaust. This is the graphic adaptation of that book. Anne Frank was born in Germany in 1929 into a Jewish family. She was one of the most well-known Jewish victims of the Holocaust, and she died at the age of 15 as a Jewish prisoner in one of the concentration camps. Well, she gained worldwide fame after her death when a diary that she had kept at the time her family was in hiding from the Nazis, and they were in hiding for about 2 years' time. That diary was discovered, actually a series of diaries, and those were published later on under the title The Diary of a Young Girl. And this book, The Diary of a Young Girl, has been made into a graphic novel format. Let's take a look. In case you've already read Anne Frank, The Diary of a Young Girl, or if you have interest in reading the book or the graphic novel, we have both in the library. Just come on down, take a look, or look on the catalog, place those on hold, and we'd be happy to check those out to you as well. Unsinkable by Jessica Long is the true story of the top Paralympic swimmer in the world. And this is a photographic memoir full of, illustrated and colorful photos demonstrating how this swimmer has been truly unsinkable, true to the title of this book. Her quote here says, "Give the best of yourself to each and every moment because it's your hard work and grace in the daily challenges that prepare you to be unsinkable in the big moments." She was born in Siberia with fibular hemimelia, and Jessica was adopted from a Russian orphanage at the age of 13 months old. She's since become one of the top U.S. Paralympic athletes of all time, and she shares in this book some of the biggest and smallest moments in her life, everything from the top of the top to some of her hardest things, right, the most challenging. And in these photos, you'll get a chance to learn about some of those inspirational moments as well as some of the things that have really been tough for her. Whether you are a swimmer or not, you will enjoy taking a look at this read. And last but not least, a collection of biographical info, I guess. This is kind of an interesting way to do a collection, I think. It's called Brazen, Rebel Ladies Who Rocked the World. And this is a graphic novel, but done up, as you can see from one of the pages here, in graphic novel format. Every couple pages is about a different real-life woman, some of whom are very well known, others not as much. Some are still alive, some have been gone for years. Some are those who really raised their voices and changed history in huge ways, and others who did so in quieter moments, but also rocked the world in some way, shape, or form. So throughout history, across the globe, one thing connects all of these women, and that is that they did not stop if they believed in something. They were going to do something to change history in some way, shape, or form. And the author in this book, who is known for doing some pretty incredible drawings, does so with, again, all of these different women that she is trying to celebrate in this story. I would imagine if you believe yourself to be someone who knows a lot about famous women of history, you will likely find at least a dozen or more women in this book that you have never heard of, as I did just flipping through. Take a look. It's called Brazen, Rebel Ladies Who Rocked the World, and this one is in the graphic novel section. Take a look. Thanks so much for your attention to this book talk. Again, stop down to the library or place books on hold and ask questions if you have them. Happy reading.